ones to take it up. We'll see what their priority is. Vi, something I think is a maybe not super heads up from what we've been talking about, but when you're thinking about champions that someone like Beichuan has found success previously and even in this tournament, I think it's a great takeaway. Although you have to think about what you're giving up. The Skarner's already gone. You could be potentially giving up Victor and Ashe, which I think you're maybe fine with if you do have the Vi. You have to start thinking of also support matchups as well. So Renata is going to be a really big one for me, as it's been a pairing that we've seen 1xN and Feather play before. It was the Varus and Renata previously, but I think with an Ashe, you could take a really, really strong 2v2 in that manner and also deny Crisp.
And for ThunderTalk, they're just going to go ahead and secure a solid form of double initiation. Not only the Ashe we already predicted, but, you know, with a couple of junglers already taken off the table in the Poppy and the Skarner, Sejuani is one of the next best choices that you can make, considering that Vi has already been secured by top esports. And then, as you mentioned before with 369, the classic Ksante, you know, very strong blind pick for the top side of the field, and JackeyLove will get that Varus once again, just like in game 1 against IG. And for ThunderTalk, they have an option, and it looks like they already made that choice to go ahead and secure a support choice for themselves. So now top esports, there's a couple things that you can, you know, mention here, Dimitri. One, you have support counter pick option.
Yes.
And you have a lot of mid laners to choose from outside of Aurora and Galio. Maybe not so much, but still, it still feels like there are many powerful mid lane champions on the table.
Yeah, and when we look at top lane, we're talking about, like you're saying, the Ksante. Already TT or for TES, sorry, they are trying to start focusing. They're getting rid of the Mbessa. Interesting that they see the Mbessa as being a little bit more problematic for them, as I would imagine that they would probably want to start getting rid of some of the more annoying tank matchups that Hoya tends to play. We saw his Gragas throughout this tournament. We've also seen him pick up the Galio as well in the top lane, the Udyr. So a couple of champions that I would be considering if I was TES. And for TT, I think if you already have kind of set up, you've got your bottom lane, you've picked up your jungler here. Obviously, you're going to need a little bit more damage, and my eyes are starting to look towards Yone, potentially in the mid lane here, although you're looking at where is your AP source going to be going for. We don't have Victor already here in the last phase of the draft. I think while I would prefer to give SeTab counter pick in this sense, I think you might be putting yourself in a bit of a hole when it comes to damage if you're not going to be able to pick up Victor here.
It's up to ThunderTalk to make that call, and they're going to go with giving SeTab absolute certainty of what he is going to have to face up against before locking in a champion of his choice. The Jax, while not necessarily a strong source of AoE damage, nor a, you know, solid frontline like the Ksante, this is a big split push threat. And anytime you do have something like the Sejuani, it does make those ganks on the top side a lot more reliable. Playing for top side does become a little more viable for the side of ThunderTalk if they want to change things up a bit, which, you know, does counteract what we were expecting might be a game plan from ThunderTalk, putting a lot more focus on the bottom side. But, you know, if you are going to play away from a bottom lane, you can play away from that Ashe, since she will still give so much utility for the entire map, I should say, even if, you know, you're not playing around her.
Raafaa, we've got Akali for Creme!
Oh my god, let's go!
Let's go! I'm so excited!
That's all it takes. Win a 1v1 as Yasuo, and you get your free melee assassin pass.
Yes, yes. We'll see what the response is going to be. Orianna's taken off the table. You also have the Galio gone. SeTab might be looking for Yone, like we were kind of mentioning earlier. You also have the Corki, but my eyes are going to be on this Akali. I think Akali might have a bit of an issue in this game where she's going to have to run into an Ashe and a Jax in a side lane. That might become a bit of a problem later. It's going to be the LeBlanc here for SeTab, trying to pick up a little bit from Xiaohu yesterday, who unfortunately didn't take the win with that game. But look, if there's ever a time for, especially in a best-of-5, full fearless, you do have to start thinking about champion economy as you go further in a series, right? There's champions you're no longer going to be having access to. TES are on the verge. If they do win this game, you're thinking, okay, we've won on Ksante. We've also taken away Vi, which is a really credible threat for someone like Beichuan. And now they also have Varus. I think if you can win this as TT, not only is it the upset in terms of the matchup, when we're talking about how strong TES should be coming into the series, but they've, I think, lost a lot of really powerful champions that should be giving them an edge here in the game.
Yeah. And, you know, one way you can disrupt a very, you know, cookie-cutter composition like top Esports have drafted for themselves is introducing a little volatility with something like the LeBlanc. You know, it's not necessarily about winning the matchup against the Akali, but it's going to be about being a, you know, flank threat for this Varus later on. You know, one of the big things that, you know, before this LeBlanc was locked in, there's not many reliable ways to get on top of the back line as we get further and further into the late game. But if you have a LeBlanc waiting in the shadows and the fight breaks out and Varus is trying to choose his moments to, you know, fire piercing arrows, oh, what is that? LeBlanc over the wall? I'm dead. You know, 100-0, level 16 LeBlanc one-shots you, and suddenly your ability to poke and siege out the window, and then top esports have to fall back on the retreat. And then if this LeBlanc actually gets ahead, now you have a 1-3-1 split push set up for ThunderTalk, and it's a way to disrupt something that top esports have, which is more reliant on grouping up as a death ball and trying to 5v5.
For TT, it's going to be very important for them to secure those early grubs. You have a team that has a Jax and this LeBlanc. We want to see them on sides, collapse inwards towards objective, in towards the mid lane, where, like you were just saying, for TES, you have a really great front line that can build out for someone like JackeyLove. Seems like he is going for the on-hit build this time around. I think I personally would have preferred for something more of the poke build. I don't think you're going to have time to be able to auto-attack someone like a Jax, someone like an Ashe or a LeBlanc. Although, I will say, this champion in Varus is very flexible with what keystone he's allowed to go for, so still has options to be able to kind of go for whichever kind of modality of AD threat.
I'll say this, though, Dimitri. If JackeyLove does fully commit to an auto-attack reliant build, and he survives, and he absolutely pops off with it, then he's just him. He's just him. He's just absolutely him.
JackeyLove has been him for a really long time. Results may vary. Looks like they're going for a really strong level 1. I was wondering if you were going to get lane swaps, as that has been something that's been popping up more and more as we get through this tournament, but it seems like they're just kind of putting a lot of effort into matching. Ooh, already by going for this level 1 invade, they got to find where TES were starting, and now they get to forcibly put the Ashe and Renata into this 2v2. Looking forward to see what we get from both of our junglers here, as Beichuan's already splitting open the map. JackeyLove taken really low and missing a lot of this experience. Great job so far from Hoya and 1xN.
And surprisingly, the Jax in a 2v2 against something like a Leona works so well because your Counter-Strike can actually block the Shield of Daybreak from the Leona. So the one piece of CC that you might have to try and buy space for your AD carry, not even in the picture here. And so ThunderTalk, somehow, even though this is not actually Jax support, it does feel like Jax support alongside Ashe for the first couple of minutes before eventually they do rotate Hoya out of this lane so that he can start, you know, picking up solo XP and gold for himself.
Yeah, once this wave crashes, Hoya's probably just gonna look for a TP. Yeah, so he's gonna be able to catch this wave. It's really important that he does get this, and he's not only alive, but he's able to survive. Kanavi's made his way down here. Feather actually, instead of finishing, moving all the way down, says, look, Hoya's probably safe, has the leap strike, also has his flash still. I'm going to take my recall, I'm going to try and reset at a pretty similar timer to my AD carry, and make sure that we have our 2v2 in line to be able to play for the top side of the map here. So, I mean, it's a great read coming out from TT. It lets them continue to apply pressure on the top side here. And again, it's all about that timer. That timer in 2.5 minutes for those grubs is what I'm looking for TT to kind of push forward that win condition that we set for them through draft.
Right, and, you know, for ThunderTalk's credit, we're only 3.5 minutes in, you know, so it's not, nothing massively monumental has been, you know, gained an advantage for ThunderTalk, but, you know, a couple things that they've already started attacking that we noted as big win conditions and, you know, big variables for this top esports roster, you know, put JackeyLove on the back foot, put Kanavi on the back foot. The fact that Kanavi doesn't get an immediate advantage because he's forced to another side of the map and a delayed start allows Beichuan to have this opportunity to be the first one impacting the side lanes.
Unless he's ganking his bottom lane, I mean, you can kind of attest to this as a jungler. If you're playing Vi this game, this is miserable to gank. Like, I'm ganking for Ksante, I'm ganking a LeBlanc, one of the worst champions every jungler likes to complain about when you talk about the mid lane matchup. So not surprised to see Kanavi. It's going to be on him to be really creative with his pathing, not only to avoid vision from the enemy team, obviously, but I want to see how he's able to impact the map, not necessarily through going through lanes, but kind of influencing his own role and how he's able to pick up jungle camps and pick up resources around the map. Because again, we're looking at this TT roster to really focus on the top side of the map and get them this Herald. But you see they're with them continuing the swap, they're really trying to index, I think, with Kanavi also ending up on the top side of the map to look for something here.
Beichuan is just going to get a little love tap onto Crisp and JackeyLove. Feather and 1xN a little too far away to really make anything out of that gank, but, you know, Beichuan had no camps on the top side, no camps on the bottom side of the map either, so no real, you know, other thing that he could really take his time doing, so just gets a little bit of damage to see if Feather and 1xN can find lethal here. It does call Kanavi over to the top side, and as you mentioned, I don't think ThunderTalk saw him at all since he was completely surrounded in fog, and I think really the only thing you can do as Kanavi with this map state until you hit level 6, just keep tabs on where the Sejuani is at all times and hope that your laners do not die solo.
He's just covering, right? Like that was the whole game plan for him. And Beichuan, while he didn't have any camps during the time, I think it's fine for him to look for a gank. He is kind of flipping his pathing just a little bit. You already see he started on his Gromp this time around, moving back up. He's going to get his respawn Raptors as well as those grubs. And you see Hoya here, despite not having the teleport anymore, already moving through mid. We have 10 seconds before these grubs, and we have this wave crashing in for TT. This is going to be them starting this up. Now for TES, as a response, this should be them trying to either look for something in mid lane, either getting Creme a better recall or trying to just protect him on his mid wave, or them even just trading the dragon, which now that 369 is coming back out from a reset, I think maybe that's going to be their option here, as I don't think there's going to be too many plays. Kanavi's on the bottom side of the map. We've now invested the TP from 369. Looks like after this play, they're just going to reset, go towards the bottom lane, and see if they can pick up any plates while they're waiting for TT to go for their resets. But by letting Beichuan do this objective by himself, 1xN and Feather are going to get back to this lane in time to pick it up and also continue to match TES's bot lane.
Yeah, this is a very solid start for ThunderTalk Gaming. I mean, for the 1xN tier 2 boots, being able to match JackeyLove, no huge advantage has been netted for you know, either team at this point, but, you know, the solid amount of gold that has been accumulated just thanks to a lot of these macro movements. Now, credit to Top Esports. I think they're doing a great job of not falling victim to, you know, panicking and trying to flip something that doesn't need to be flipped, and then causing even more unnecessary volatility and giving that chance for ThunderTalk to just explode an advantage in this first 15 minutes of the game. They're just taking and trading whatever objectives they can. And so then once we get to the point of the game where Top Esports are hitting one item spikes, maybe that's when you see them pull the trigger.
They have some really powerful ultimates, right? We're talking about the Vi ultimate.
Yeah.
You also have JackeyLove and Crisp having such big team fighting contributing ults. So we'll see what they can do once they're hitting level 6. We already see Kanavi getting that level. You have JackeyLove and Crisp who are going to be getting that within the next minute and a half or so. We also have Dragon being taken on the opposite side by TES. And Mark, I can't believe it. I'm sure TS are probably not too unhappy with the state of affairs right now. Again, they are a team that I think we are expecting to see how they're able to do. SeTab now. Okay.
Oh, I think SeTab might just be gone. He tries to dash back with the distortion and to dodge out on this all-in.
Wait a minute.
Flashing over the wall. They eventually get it, and the arrow from 1xN, unfortunately, is just a little too late. First blood goes over to Top Esports, not wasting a second and jumping on SeTab.
Okay, that's what I like to see. I mean, one of the hard parts when you are playing LeBlanc is there's just going to be a Vi ultimate that's following. Maybe he thought he had the timing quite perfect, but they're able to force out the flash there. And as we check this replay here, I mean, SeTab just has to get this wave in. No one's in the area. I love what we got from this, from Kanavi and Creme. Visually, that was a bit confusing. I won't lie. I'm sure the observers had to do a little bit of breakneck coming on through, but this is a really clean play. And you think about the resources that were used during this for TES. They invested a lot. I want to see if they can maybe try to turn this later on into an advantage. Remember, getting that kill for Kanavi and an assist for Creme is a little bit of gold. You're denying some of that golden experience from your opponents, but now you're missing out on ult for both of your mid and jungles and the flash, which I think are some pretty big investments coming out from SeTab.
Yeah, and for Top Esports, I think the big advantage that you can try and gain from this is that knowing SeTab is now down an additional escape tool, so you just have to be very persistent and timely with this cease and desist coming off cooldown in the next, I want to say 30, 40 seconds for Kanavi. You need to immediately show up mid lane, try to put pressure down, or if you want to sync it up with the Void Grub spawn so that you are forcing SeTab out of lane, and then you can guarantee yourself priority in order to fight over that objective now that we have returned to standard lane assignments.
Pretty slow early game, I won't lie. 9.5 minutes. I kind of want to see more fighting. We have an Ashe in the game. I just assume every team here in the LPL is going to want to fight, especially with early game Ashe, with how broken this champion is, but it's okay. We have it coming soon. Teleports are being invested here by Hoya just to be able to pick up this bottom lane wave. There's not a dragon to play for a minute and a half. Creme using both parts of his ultimate already, 40 seconds before the grub fight, wanting to force out SeTab from the mid lane. And you can already see that TES, they've now shifted over JackeyLove and Kanavi to help in the mid lane. Kanavi trying to avoid vision as well as possible. I think he's played this game. Kanavi, we didn't get to talk about him too much, but obviously 5 years on JDG, now here on TES, kind of making a similar trek that someone like Mako did. Now that Mako has left the roster, but he's been playing really, really well on vision, I think, and covering his lanes, which has led to TT not necessarily being able to find all those massive lane leads here. So Kanavi's going to get spotted, and now that we're here on Grubs, SeTab's going to have his ultimate. Creme isn't. I think that this is a pretty big win here for TES if they're able to play their cards right. And the Dragon's even spawning in 50 with the desync and timers there. They can contest for that Dragon as well. I think TES need to be able to make space somewhere on the map and make a play. And so far, we haven't really seen that kind of action from them.
Yeah, and for top esports, they were not able to find that advantage where they could create a numbers advantage in order to enter and contest for the second rotation of the Void Grub. So for ThunderTalk, 6 grubs to them. And that is so damn nice for a 1-3-1 setup, as we were alluding to in the draft phase, assuming both Hoya and SeTab are able to get off the ground and running. Obviously, that first death does decelerate SeTab a little bit, but, you know, he's actually still not behind in lane still, considering the fact that he is able to somewhat chunk Creme out of lane by himself. So ThunderTalk are well in position, while, once again, not massively ahead in gold. They are still in position to execute on their game plan as they're making the siege on top side.
TS just look a little slow on the map. We're going to get that fight now.
Maybe it could be Feather just taking so much damage, and I guess they didn't know Kanavi was in the area, or at least underestimated their ability to turn that. And once again, decisiveness is what gives top esports a way back into this game.
Once Beichuan is out of the picture, or he moves out of the way from Feather, they know, look, we're either getting a flash out from this Renata, or we're just getting a kill. And they actually turned it into 2 here. Kanavi makes a play in mid. SeTab is out thanks to using the Mimic and Distortion. Fantastic work yet again from one of our new players coming in for TT from the LCK. Great job.
Now this is SeTab's 3rd most played champion in his career. Already showing, you know, that familiarity, coming really in clutch to survive, at least in the second all-in attempt from Kanavi and Creme. But take a look back at this replay on the top side.
You see the pings. TT know that Kanavi's at least in the area. And as soon as Beichuan moves out, like I was saying, they know that they're at least getting a summoner spell from the trade. The fact that they got 2 kills is, I think, the bow on top for them. And despite all of that, TT are going to be able to pick up the second dragon here. And I still like their odds in this game. It's a very, very minor lead, all things considered, at 13 minutes here. 2,000 gold, almost 1,000 after this dragon is spawning. So TT are looking good, and part of their success throughout Demacia Cup so far has been the fact that I think that they've played the map pretty decently throughout this tournament. I think some of their participants or their enemies so far have not really kind of pushed them in that manner. We had that 50-minute game 3 in the quarterfinals versus LNG, and Beichuan has been a very big proponent as to whether this team is able to find success alongside the carries that we were mentioning during the draft and a bit earlier in the show. So let's see if this kind of misstep maybe throws off ThunderTalk, or if we're going to kind of get more from them. As now we have the Herald spawning here in a little bit. You already see TT are already preemptively out on the map. They're going to get first say on this mid wave, and Feather moving bottom lane says to me that they just want to try to make this dive happen. They're going to give up this Herald and really focus on getting a first turret here and overload on the map.
And for ThunderTalk's, you know, credit, the rest of top esports aren't really committing to Rift Herald side just yet. It is just now JackeyLove is getting priority of the mid wave before Kanavi can move on to, over onto the top side of the map. 369 does give up control of the bottom tower, and that is first brick gold going over to ThunderTalk. So once again, macro play, really, really solid for ThunderTalk against such a, what we expect to be, a really powerful roster in top esports, despite this being, you know, their first tournament together as a new 5-man roster.
Yeah, big new members for everybody who's just joining us or is maybe unfamiliar. Kanavi and Chris joining in from their respective rosters. Creme gets caught here.
Good clip by Beichuan. Now Creme, can he get out alive? Yes, he does. Perfect execution into the wall so that he can flash over it. He's totally fine. Doesn't even need to use the second cast as he has created enough distance. And because the rest of top esports were playing for that Rift Herald, he has multiple friends that he can reunite with for safety. But I have to say, you know, ThunderTalk now being able to take a flash out of something like an Akali, maybe something they can punish on in the next 4 minutes.
That was a beautiful set of mechanics coming out from Creme. One of the reasons why we know for him for this champion. And yeah, with them kind of using that overload on the bottom side of the map, copying our current world champions in T1 and their play around grubs and how important they were, and then overloading onto one side of the map, grabbing yourself a turret, it makes it very difficult for you to match. Now that they've opened up one of these side lanes, I think it's only going to get easier here for TT to consistently get a bit of a deeper push onto the enemy lane, move into an objective, move into Fog of War, and try to play in the dark areas of the map here for TES. Again, TES really want to try to play a strong front to back. You have Crisp and Ksante. You have great lockdown alongside multiple of these champions to allow for your damage dealers to really get in there and win you a fight. So for TES, they want to be able to have all the vision, have all of the information going into a fight. And as long as TT are able to pull them around the map, like we've seen in these last 15 minutes, TT can very easily grow themselves a gold lead, get themselves an item advantage, and then come into what I'm going to assume is maybe a third and fourth Drake with some pretty sizable leads that might end up in them kind of taking fights and eventually taking a Nexus.
Yeah, pretty remarkable that ThunderTalk, due to their map play, were able to actually grab that second dragon somehow away from top esports control, so they deny what could have been, you know, top esports trying to compete and put themselves for soul point contention in the next minute and a half. Now it's just going to be the second dragon for either team, possibly, which does slow down the game a lot. And even though they are behind in gold against top esports, it is simply due to top esports being insanely decisive on a couple of picks so far. And with this Rift Herald crash into the tier 1 in the mid lane, you might look for another crash, but it's not going to be in the mid lane. They're going to roam on down. Come on, Drift King. Let's see if you've put your time in that practice tool. Oh, good drift. Really solid curves and turns. And Kanavi's just going to get one more crash, but it might be a little too...
Trying to sneak it? So what is he? Okay. He's trying to hide the... So he's making it so that it avoids the minion wave there. It gets another crash potentially into that bottom turret. I think it just dies to the... Yeah, the turret shot kills it there. Yeah, exactly. There were a couple of different plays there. Right there, Kanavi and TES, by them using the Herald, they opened up a mid-tier 1 and a bottom lane tier 1 with this dragon coming up. I think they're feeling really great about the gold lead that they're able to gain from that.
Yeah.
And in mid lane, we actually saw JackeyLove throw out his ultimate. Feather, I don't know if it was going to land, but as it maybe does, he uses his Mikhail. So there were a couple of small things there from TES that they were trying to fish right before this objective to say, look, you're not going to have Mikhails. We'll still have Leona ult as well. So many great interactions all happening at the same time. And I think last 45 seconds right there show some of that killer instinct coming in from TES. So top immediately trying to make plays. They want to try to make sure they get this dragon here. We're seeing teleports out from SeTab. Creme will be able to match, so SeTab really has to focus on pushing out this wave first and then roaming over, whereas Creme can stay in this lane for as long as he wants. Doesn't seem like TT are really going to be contesting for this objective, as they kind of took some of their recalls late and they really focused on trying to get that top tier 1 with their 6 grubs.
Yeah, and considering that top esports, while they have a small gold lead, it is still one that should not be disrespected. Everyone is on 1 item power spikes, except for 369, who has managed to secure a spirit visage in his inventory before anyone else has completed their second item. So ThunderTalk just making sure that they don't fall prey into any situations where top esports could have and make that difference just, you know, due to stat advantage in a fight where you know, despite this team, this being their third stage game together, it is still one that, you know, all of us here on the broadcast, and I imagine everyone else remaining in the tournament, has a lot of respect for, and ThunderTalk does not want to take anything to chance.
Looks like they're making that play onto JackeyLove. Immediate cleanse comes out. So it's going to be the trade of ultimates, and getting that cleanse out from JackeyLove immediately does kind of open up the rest of this map. We'll see if TT can make another play. Again, they have the Ashe ultimate as well, so similar to them on this side. Oh, SeTab didn't even use his distortion.
Oh, I mean, his passive pops, but Chris has been locked down and center, and SeTab is now just gone from the fight.
There it is, wait a minute.
Ashe arrow right onto JackeyLove. He doesn't have cleanse anymore, but there's no proper follow-up from the rest of ThunderTalk. Here comes Creme, looks for the backline assassination, but just not enough damage as he has to take his retreat away from 1xN. Now Hoya trying to get into the front backline. JackeyLove falls to 1xN, he finds his moment, he flashes back into the safety of his team. He's kiting back with the arrows. Hoya completely running amok in the backline and dancing back into his own team for safety, choosing his moment, but 369 goes all out into Hoya, trying to play around with Creme. They're looking for 1xN. The bailout not enough as Hoya tries to do everything he can before he has to leap strike back to safety. 369 and Creme absolutely saving that fight for top esports.
1xN, there's just too many targets, not enough damage. I was wondering what this TT roster was going to look like, and with SeTab immediately out of the fight, they lose a lot of that first punch that they were looking for. You can take a look at this replay. SeTab just not knowing that Kanavi is here, doing his recall or looking to try to play. He just never uses his distortion. I think maybe before this play, it's on cooldown actually, so he doesn't even have it available. Doesn't use his flash either. And now you're in this position where you no longer have Sejuani ult, you no longer have Renata ultimate, and they're just still gearing up here from the side of TES.
And just look at how well the side laners of top esports split up the fight from ThunderTalk, where it looked so advantageous once Hoya started taking JackeyLove out of the fight.
Oh my god, even in the picture-in-picture, Creme is putting it on SeTab right now. SeTab is just, he's already solo killed, almost solo killed anyway. The flash goes down, we're gonna see 1xN start to put in damage, but it's Kraken Slayer. This item did just get nerfed. There's no longer any kind of real bailout. They don't have the damage to be able to get the reset as well, so like you were saying, the solo laners of TES, and I think the terrain just doing a lot of work and favors for them here as 1xN now.
Beichuan with the engage, looking for JackeyLove once again. Remember that he does not have any summoner spells, and it's an easy pickup for ThunderTalk. It's Feather that gets the kill credit, and for top esports, now down to Marksman. Gonna have to back off and cede control of ThunderTalk's own side of the map back over to them.
So during that replay, we got to see a dragon taken here for TES. They also had that push thanks to bottom lane. Like I was saying, almost killing SeTab means that they open up a side lane. This is starting to get more and more worrisome here for the side of TT. Their solo lanes are not doing well enough to, I think, generate enough an advantage. SeTab literally does 0 damage to this Vi champion.
I was about to say, I think Kanavi is about to just give him the fisting, and now SeTab now trying to get out of alive. Hoya making sure that he is there for reinforcements. 369 also forced to use the teleport just in case Kanavi was about to get, you know, 2v1 there in that situation. But the fact that Kanavi out damaging SeTab, I mean, we already pointed out that, you know, SeTab was trying to do well in this game despite being focused and was keeping up his, you know, gold lead relatively not too far behind from Creme. But Kanavi is so rich, 2 items, and he's just getting absolutely so much work done on the map.
He's one of the players that we were talking about, and I think rightfully so for the level of hype, for the level of play that this guy has put forward throughout the last couple of years here in the LPL. It's so sad. As a fellow AD carry player, I feel bad for 1xN. He's like, okay, I got enough damage on a JackeyLove, but there's an Akali at full HP, there's a Ksante. We got to. So let's take a look at the game. We have 20 seconds before Dragon. I don't think it's going to be a really meaningful one. As you already see, TT are already on the top side of the map. It would be sole point here for TES if they're able to grab that for themselves. But I want to take a look at the kind of tournament as a whole. This is a one where I think a lot of people, rightfully so, especially from a Western audience, are looking at Demacia Cup and they're going, all right, so what are we doing here? What's the play? Like, are we just having a bunch of like random matches, which is cool, great and all that we get to see LPL teams. One of the biggest changes I think for this tournament is the fact that the teams are required to have at least a majority of their LPL roster going into the next year. That was one of the reasons that I think Demacia Cup might have been exciting for different reasons, was the fact that, hey, we got like the LDL teams that got to be able to play for these guys. But this is a bit of a different one, especially with that change coming in over the last couple of years. And for this is, I think it's most so grabbing the attention and getting some hype generated for the teams and what they can kind of look like. And if TT can continue the level of performance, oh my god, SeTab just got solo killed by Creme. All right, so Creme, I'm going to keep going. I think there's not much. Oh, we're investing TP. Okay, never mind. All right, let's do this.
He just flashed. Doesn't have perfect execution anymore, and Hoya is just going to close the distance with the helicopter dong, ensures that the counter-strike lands. Nowhere else for Creme to go, but so much pressure. That was pretty much all 4 members all chasing Creme down on the top side of the map, which opens up this minion wave push with Kanavi and JackeyLove to secure the tier 2 turret in the mid lane. So still another advantage for top esports. And as you were mentioning already, top esports having so much firm control of the map, it's still only a 2,000 gold lead, but the way that top esports are playing it right now feels like more.
Well, what do we do now? Because we made this composition to try to play on side lanes, having really strong solo laners to affect them, but SeTab is just getting, literally has not done any damage to Creme. Creme has Shadow Flame already finished, just almost one-shots him with a single combo there, has the Shadow Flame and the Proto Belt there completed. And now with TT, your solo laners are not in a great spot. SeTab specifically is a really big pain point for the squad. And Hoya, while being on this Jax, I think hasn't really been able to do all that much, as we haven't really seen TT really play the map in an effective way past the 15-minute mark. They got themselves the grubs, they're able to overload on some of these turrets, but they really haven't been able to protect their side lanes, and part of why this composition can start to work is you have Beichuan and Feather playing through mid lane, and then moving out towards side lane, shadowing their laners, and allowing for someone like Ashe to safely pick up mid waves as they empower more of these solo lanes. So it's sad to see for TT, but the composition that we were kind of hyping up to see whether or not they could actually execute on is starting to fall apart as TS's solo laners are taking over the game. Almost level 16 for both of them here. It's going to be a huge power point coming into this next Dragon in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, man, and for top esports, I think if anyone was, still, I don't want to say doubtful, but, questioning how strong this roster was going to be on their essentially second day of playing together as a squad. Just imagine what the team is going to look like once we get into the full swing of the LPL season in 2025, when we get into spring split, when these guys have, double X the amount of games under their belt as a team, and this team really does get to cover up any, small windows of variability that, a team like ThunderTalk Gaming has been able to exploit so far, at least in the early game. Top esports relatively has performed like a top team that we should expect to come out as. Sejuani ulti will get instantly traded by JackeyLove's cleanse. Hopefully that gives a window for ThunderTalk Gaming if they can find a way back into it. The gold lead's still not completely insurmountable, right? But top esports, man, it's that firm grip that Kanavi always gets a chance to exact when he has a lead.
What am I supposed to do this game, man? Like, we keep saying the same play. Beichuan comes over a wall, he comes from Fog of War, he ults JackeyLove cleanses, and then nothing happens. We're not like able to make a much more aggressive engage, we're not able to get that damage down. We wanted to see 2 items here. Can TES put up a fight? I think that's been proven handily by the solo lanes, by specifically Creme so far, who's had a fantastic Akali game, which we expect from him as it is one of his most mastered champions throughout his career. We're just not seeing anything from TT. I think maybe that lack of damage that I kind of alluded to towards the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And we're just not really seeing the fights pan out. We're not getting an aggressive engage enough. I wanted to see what Feather was going to do on this Renata, because earlier on in the tournament, he was very aggressive with this ranged champion. He would like flash forward, handshake someone, try to find a kill, which sometimes would work, and especially in a group stage, you do have some kind of leeway to play like that, but That's not really going to be the case here now that we're here in the bracket stage in a best-of-5 in our game 1 here. Dragon spawning in 20 seconds. We're setting up around this objective. Teleport flank coming in from Creme, and SeTab is nowhere in the area.
Oh boy, this is going to be bad news bears for 1xn. He has no idea.
Oh, he missed the shuriken
the
foot!
shuriken doesn't land on the 1xn, so he's safe for now. 369 steps up and tries to buy space. Holds it there for Top Esports to gain control of the river right next to that dragon pit, but ThunderTalk now have that opportunity to fight their way back into control, looking for positioning. Creme now turning his attention to Hoya, but he doesn't want to exhaust all of his spells into the top laner. He wants to find that backliner in 1xn. He wants to look for the squishy marksman, as now Creme starting to weave his way around that right flank.
Oh. Those are huge cooldowns now. We saw that they used the ultimate from Ashe. There's also no handshake, so there's a small timer here. Kanavi going for global
Is he doing
buff
for
here,
red buff?
expecting that his team won't be able to they won't be able to take the dragon in time. Kanavi.
Sejuani ulti thrown out. Creme is now into the backline. Kanavi now has arrived to the party. Creme is popping the stasis to buy some time with that Zhonya's hourglass. Here comes Hoya, tries to stall as long as he can, flashes away, but he gets assassinated, and here comes the rest of Top Esports. They find the flip. Good night, 1xn. Beichuan could be next as he flashes to safety. Feather trying to make the escape, but Kanavi is giving him the double knuckle down. Kanavi wants to make a statement. He is one of the best junglers in the LPL, and he is not letting go of that crown.
There we go, TES, they explode. We finally get a massive team fight victory for them. It's Ocean Soul, it's Baron, and TES are looking to put the finishing touches on a Game 1 victory. TT, man. Look, they have a lot of momentum. We saw yesterday that Weibo were able to take the first game, and then they made their sweep on the back end of that series. TT, I think, are going to have to go back to the drawing board and look for more success elsewhere, as this fight, I mean, we were talking about how Kanavi, he's trying to really min-max the amount of resources, but great job yet again. Crispin, 369, buying so much time for their backline. I mean, Creme is applying so much pressure to try to kill some of these backline threats, and his Akali is bar none one of the best in the world here. So TES, they got, I think, some really great champions coming into this one, and we're seeing some great master classes coming in from Top Esports.
Everyone had their own moment in the spotlight, and it seemed so fluid that everyone seemed to tag each other in. Creme opening up the fight, going into stasis, then sending 369 and Kanavi to look for crucial CC to set up for the remaining damage of that perfect execution. As now ThunderTalk trying to defend this tier 2 turret on the top side. We already saw JackeyLove expend a chain of corruptions. As now a decent Sejuani ulti just stops Creme in his tracks. ThunderTalk maintaining the defense and siege for now, but now they have to deal with a minion wave that is creating an opportunity for Top Esports to look their way into the base through mid lane.
I love this from Creme, just playing on the limits there. Also gets the flip back in after using it on his the smoke bomb. So great job from TES. They're playing this really, really well. I think the only avenue we can see from TT is if SeTab can get another item, maybe get to level 16, getting the additional point in that ultimate could be really huge. But Creme with, dude, I mean, he has Ocean Soul. Every time he takes damage, he just heals. He can one-shot the back line. I think there's very little wrong. Now with Kanavi next to him with his Baron buff, it's only going to get tougher and tougher here for TT. So whatever items they have in their inventory, whatever kind of experience they have now, this has to be their last stand if they want to be able to stay in this game and even fight for a Game 1 contest.
And if they don't do anything, then Top Esports are just going to continue taking structures one by one. And if there was any window to take it, at least before those inhibitors fell, it's already gone. Now Top Esports shifting their attention to the bottom side of the map. This tier 2 turret will fall. I don't think Creme is going to overstay his welcome, though. Just give the Baron buff minions a little extra time and love before he gets his own reset. As we take a look back, there wasn't that much action that happened in this replay, but you can just see how much pressure is being exacted into this top lane siege.
Yeah, the Hoya.
This is the replay where... Oh my god.
Okay, I was going to say... The observers for the China stream have been, you know, they always have a little bit fun. They zoom in on missed cannons. They zoom in on 1v1s. That was a great replay. I was a little question mark. I was like, I don't know if we really need to show a replay, but when it's to show how little damage Ashe does to a Ksante champ, I'm okay with that. Here we go.
Look at all the CC out. There was a beautiful solar flare into the knockup from 369 as Kanavi sends it into the backline. Q flash right into SeTab through 1xn's phase. I mean, how cracked is this guy, man? ThunderTalk are not going to withstand the siege and the pressure. Top Esports don't drop a single man as they send the siege into the Nexus and will take game 1 against ThunderTalk.
It was a slow first 15 minutes here for TES, but it seems like the sleeping giants have awoken so far here. It's only game 1, so a lot of series still left to play in a best of 5, but a very dominant one after they were able to get that vehicle rolling for themselves. And I think for TT, while they have also lost their fair share of games up against someone like LNG in the quarterfinals, is obviously, I think, a much tougher opponent than them, and they're going to have to definitely go back to the drawing board. A lot of their wins have come from some later game team fighting, not necessarily winning the micro in that instance, but there was just not enough protection for 1xn, and we got to see what Creme's Akali could do in a backline. Maybe it was him winning that 1v1 that kind of instilled the fear. Now, he is facing SeTab, right? So he beat him in the 1v1 on Caitlyn versus Yasuo. Then he beats him on Akali versus LeBlanc. I think Creme's may be showing some aura versus SeTab, saying, look, you just joined the LPL. Let me show you what my region does.
Yes, sir. This is what happens when you go into that hyperbolic time chamber. You put in the hours, you put in the years of work, as, Creme has been demonstrating over his career within the LPL, how flexible he is. But the fact that we get to see a little bit of those roots, to see, where he first made his name on, something like an Akali and the Yasuo in that 1v1, dare I say it, Dimitri, we might be getting, a full, 4-course meal showing from Creme. The appetizer was the Yasuo 1v1, the Akali is the first course, and depending on how long the series is from Top Esports, we're gonna get just as delectable dishes in our second and third course from them.
I just hope for this game that we do not get griefed on the MVP. Creme was the only person that was having fun this game. I think Creme got to have an exquisite amount of fun. And yeah, this post-game stream is just really disgusting. Like 1xn is like literally doing some of the most damage in the game, but he's playing Ashe. He has the Kraken Slayer build. He has the Brunon. So like overall, the amount of AD is pretty low. The amount of arrows that are flying is pretty high. But yeah, it just doesn't matter. And we didn't get to see some of those side lane matchups pan out like we expected. We saw Hoya and 369 interact a little bit, but part of that lane swap, they didn't really do like the full lane swap part of it, where they have the bottom lane being able to match. It was TT that ended up matching JackeyLove and Crisp, and we just kind of never got to see the solo lanes here of TT really get off to a great start. And that has, I think, been one of my biggest criticisms for someone like Hoya. He was always someone that has been really good on tanks. The laning phase has never been somewhere that he's really excelled. So to put him on a champion that can do so well in the laning phase versus someone like Ksante, and then you also have to play side lanes, I think playing side lanes on a team that isn't necessarily winning in the mid game is very, very difficult, because suddenly you're like, well, I would love to hit this turret and just, mog this turret with 6 grubs. I don't get to play because I don't know where enemy jungler is. I don't have my mid lane applying pressure onto the mid lane and getting enough turret damage. Maybe that's a mistake from them taking the bottom tier 1 too early and not necessarily being able to really extend that lane in their favor as the game went on. But we just didn't get to see it from them.
To be fair for SeTab, Kanavi, had one of 3 lanes to choose to be, facing his Eternal Wrath on repeat with Cease and Desist, and he chose SeTab as his opener. I mean, if you're LeBlanc and you see suddenly both mid lane and jungle from the woodwork flash ulting on top of you, at that point you just throw your hands off the keyboard like, what can I do, man? I'm sorry if they hate me. God has chosen me to not be his favorite in this game, and SeTab, for what it's worth, tried to do his best to endure what he could.
How can I play? Jungle's in my lane. How do we do it?
How do we do it?
We got to see it, like you're saying. So, unfortunate for SeTab and the crew over at ThunderTalk. I'm hoping that the second game gives us I don't think we're going to get anything much more exciting. I think we'll take a look at what this game has already done. In the group stage, 1xN played 3 games of Varus back-to-back. In their quarterfinals win versus LNG, he was unable to pick up this Varus champion. TES have denied it here again. Now he's also lost on the Ashe. And so we're probably going to get more Wombo comps coming out from TT, because I think what we have seen from them throughout the quarterfinals and their group stage is, while some of their micro isn't the greatest, and we're talking about their macro having a little bit of holes in them and them being, I think, a slower team to start in a game, they have been really focusing on easier to execute compositions that have really clear guidelines as to get 1xN ahead, let him have like a champion like Jinx, have him reset, and have him take over a fight alongside SeTab, who consistency, I think his floor has been a lot higher than someone like UCal, but it's those high highs that we were kind of excited for when we saw him in the LPL.
Yeah. I think if Creme does not get MVP vote, then the second best